This conference will now be recorded.
Our special meeting template does not contain an invocation, but I think we need God's blessing upon our work. So I'm going to start my comments with a very brief prayer. Father in heaven, please guide us in our work today. Let us listen as you would listen. Let us speak as you would speak. Let us set aside any pettiness or animosity we may have and truly work to do the very best for the town of Surfside Beach to honor our Lord and Savior, your Son, Jesus Christ. Okay, we can sit. I'm going to do a few opening comments before the pledge.
What about the pledge?
You have the opening comments and then the pledge.
I just lead it to first.
Well, okay, I think it makes more sense. Very good, all right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So I requested this meeting in my last weekly update specifically to address pier grand opening once and for all. Mr. Vincent rightly added the topic as ATAX because those are funds we will be discussing. If a pier grand opening is canceled or cut significantly, we will still have to allocate those ATAX funds. Public comments were initially omitted due to a combination misinterpretation and miscommunication between Ms. Medina and me. There was no intention to prevent the members of the public from voicing opinions. That situation has been rectified and should not occur again. The millage discussion and police panel were added to take advantage of the special meeting and to avoid protracted discussions in our regular meeting. The millage proposal should be rather straightforward, 6 mills with reduced H-tax transfers or budget as is. Obviously, other things could be proposed, but I want to keep the discussions focused. I realize none of us has any real info on the police panel applicants. I think it's appropriate that all discussion on these applicants and the scope of their work be in public. This has the potential to be a long meeting. I've been rather lax in enforcing Robert's rules today with respect to 2 speaking turns on an issue. Please note that I will be doing so from now on. I have already asked council to prepare points in advance and to be mindful of the rule. The 5-minute rule is less of an issue, but I'm going to be watching that more closely also. So that's the end of my opening comments. And we had the Pledge of Allegiance already. Before the public comment, we don't have a motions relating to agenda, but I'm going to make a motion. We have a guest, Mr. Charlie Barano from Municipal Association, and he's come to listen and maybe guide us if there's any ATAX questions. So I'm making a motion to move that in the business section to the A position.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Medina?
Ms. Fallon,
No.
Mr. Kinkin.
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Crickwell,
Yes.
Mr. Steen,
Yes.
Mr. Walls,
Yes.
Mayor Kraus.
Yes, motion carries 6-1. So we're going to move the ATAX discussion to the beginning of the business section. With that, we're going to move to public comment. So as we go into public comment, I want the public to voice its opinion, but as with council debate, I want it orderly and efficient. And with that in mind, I'd like to know how many people wish to speak today specifically on the ATAX issue. Okay, not too many. All right, in that case, let's go. Take a turn, whoever's first.
I go first.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of Town Council.
No.
Go.
As you know, I sent you an email about, my name is Anusha Shift and I live at 210 South Miller. I sent you an email last week expressing my view about the expenditure regarding the party that we're having. I know by law we have to spend it for tourism advancement, but it doesn't say that has to happen only for one location in town. As Mr. Coleman the other day correctly pointed out, there are so many other opportunities within town that we can make improvements to infrastructure or facilities that tourists will enjoy. I was there last night to buy an ice cream. Already lines are everywhere for the restaurants. You have to wait 15 minutes to get a cone of ice cream. And the other restaurants, we could not go because the line was so long. This is just last night. So no additional expenditure to promote that section. There are many other opportunities. I hope you look into other things that we can do in town to spend that money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. Tim Courtney, South Poplar Drive. In regards to the accommodations and this grand opening and party, this pier has been hindering us for years. We've had multiple grand openings already. We had dedications. This money could be allocated and used for other things. Having a party that's gonna last you 5 hours, to waste this kind of money for a grand opening for what? It's on a shoulder season. So you have day trippers that could come here. All you're doing is entertaining the people across 17. Bottom line is we could use this money for crossovers, pavers, other type of projects than a party. Again, I don't see why we're doing this. We're not doing it for the tourists. It's not during the tourist season. If it was on July 4th, I would be up here speaking. But again, it's on the shoulder season. There's no point. Use the money wisely. Use it for pavers. We asphalt the E-District Village, whatever you want to call it. That could have been paved with this money. We could have made walkways where kids' feet are not burning up coming off the beach. We have crossovers, walkovers that need to be replaced. We have other areas where this money can be used. Please go very clear today and make sure you do the right thing. For a 5-hour party, is it really worth it? Use it elsewhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Lynn Livesey, 520 10th Avenue South. I didn't know what we were supposed to comment on. I'm glad to know it's the A-tax, and the council's finally realized that you have A-tax and now you're wanting to spend it. Usually it was hard to even find people to spend that money. My husband was on that committee for 9 years. But what I'd like to say is, I see here on this promotions, there is no 4th of July written on here at all. You don't need to have a 4th of July and fireworks. You know, we haven't had that for years because of COVID, and we didn't have a pier. We don't need to spend money. I think this money for the party and the grand opening would be better used during the 4th of July. That's something we've traditionally always done. We've been missing it for years. A-tax would suffice for that. There's a lot of things going, there's a lot of things going on down at the pier, and it's all positive. I'd like to compliment the people who are trying to maintain it. It's brand new. But talking about, I just heard, because I couldn't come to the last meeting, about bands and booze on the end of the pier. And you know, we don't need to compete with the businesses who have brick and mortar around the pier, who pay their taxes. There's a lot of businesses who've suffered through the pier being built and through COVID and all that. They need to have their opportunity to have their bands or their entertainment, their food, and their beverages, whatever they are. So we don't even need to address that. That certainly wouldn't apply under A-tax anyway. But it would be nice to know that we weren't going to have a specific party just for the grand opening. I don't think it's necessary. Do it on the 4th of July and say, whoopee up, you know, let's have fireworks and everything. It looks like you've gotten it whittled down to a proper amount. It costs a lot. I don't see anything on here about how much fireworks cost. They cost a lot. So you need to just give up on this party and just call it the 4th of July grand opening and have fun, okay? The other thing is, I want to know when the restaurants on the pier are going to have a chance to start working on the insides of their facilities. Maybe we're in a lawsuit, I have no idea. Maybe we need to repair it before we give it to them. I don't know what the problem is, but I was hoping we'd have restaurants on there this summer. That's just, I don't know what the holdup is, but it needs to be done. And I am glad you all have found your A-tax and that you can use it properly. I definitely know what A-tax are for and how they're generated. It's a wonderful thing for our town, and we can use it in a positive way. I think our town is beautiful. We have so much that has been done as far as green spaces, bathrooms, roads, parking lots, pavers. I mean, we've got a lot of beauty going on here, but we need to act like we care about, yeah, let's generate some more revenue here. The A-tax comes from the tourists, okay? But, let's get smart about this party. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, then we're going to move into item 4, and we're going to start with what is currently labeled C, the A-tax discussion. Director Gruber, you can start us.
Yes, I just wanted to make some points of clarification. I believe it was misconstrued that the $95,000 was only for a grand opening, and it is not. It is also for peer events that we plan on doing, if so approved. That being said, I have created a slideshow, and I don't know if you want me to go through the whole thing or not, but basically, I have the law, okay? And Mr. Barano is here too to answer any questions. It must be used for tourism-related expenditures. It may be used to provide additional municipal services, including but not limited to law enforcement, traffic control, public facilities, and highway and street maintenance. I'm going to go down to bullet points though, to stress this point. It must not be used as additional revenue to provide services normally provided by the municipality. It's also used for continual promotion of tourism, and it must be spent by the municipality within 2 years of receipt. And so the question is, what is tourist-related expenditures? Expenditures must be used to attract or provide for tourism. The expenditure must be for items that would normally not be provided. It must have high concentration of tourism activity, which obviously we do. The amount of expenditures must be based on estimated percentage of costs attributed to those tourists. So the next 2 slides are what the law defines as all the uses. We have advertising and promotion of tourism to develop and increase tourists, promotion of arts and cultural events, construction, maintenance, and operation of facilities for civic and cultural activities, including construction and maintenance of access of the nearby roads and utilities for those facilities. Criminal justice system, law enforcement, fire protection, solid waste collection, and health facilities are required to serve tourists in tourist facilities. Public facilities such as restrooms, dressing rooms, parks, and parking lots. Tourist shuttle transportation, control and repair of waterfront erosion, operating visitor information centers. So Tabitha came up with a list of events that they would like to do on the pier, and that is the cost of $12,200. So that's throughout the summer. And she did an estimate of $60,000 would be for the pier grand opening. So that being said, right now of the $95,000, 23 is available to reallocate to other projects, and an additional 60 if you so choose not to have the grand opening to be added. So a total of $83,000.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Director Gruber?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
you said that on the first page, must be spent by the municipality within 2 years of receipt,
Correct.
but you can also get an extension. You can request.
We can request an extension if need be.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And I do want to ask Mr. Barano, if we were to request an extension, is that a very difficult process?
Please.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, good morning. That's a good question. I've never in my experience requested that extension from the Tourism Expenditure Review Committee. I would suspect that's not a difficult request, but it depends on the facts.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stanley.
this money, how long have we had it in our budget to use as of right now?
This was the fund balance as of the end of '23. So we have this year and up till June 30th of '25,
So we have another year basically to spend.
basically.
Thank you, ma'am.
And we can reappropriate this by resolution and get going, wherever we decide to.
I'm sorry, Charlie, was there a comment, sir? I saw that you, oh, I'm sorry. I saw that you looked like you had a comment to make after that last thing. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Kinker.
are we deciding other uses today, or are we just deciding whether we're going to spend the $60,000 for the pier party?
Right now, we're not deciding anything. Somebody's gonna have to make a motion.
Okay.
And if we're done with asking questions, I was just about to say, I'll entertain motions. I'm sorry about that. Pardon me for a moment. Yes, well, wait,
Somebody get the wet nipple out.
yeah, really.
A stick, I'm not gonna make a little bit of stick.
I apologize for this. There we go. Much better. Okay, so as I said, I'll entertain motions at this point.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to ask you,
Okay,
just want to clarify. So it says uses public facilities such as restrooms, dressing rooms, parks, and parking lots. Does that also include beach showers, pavers for beach accesses, building better beach access, bicycle racks, all that kind of stuff for touristy stuff? Does that include all that?
Yes.
Thank you.
okay, then I guess I have one question before that. So we would have to be able to work all of those things into this fiscal year that's approaching with Director Adair into his work schedule if we chose to do all that.
Yes, we could ask for an extension if need be, but the best case would be to bring it to a resolution at the next meeting. That way it's on Mr. Adair's agenda.
Yeah, I would caution against that based on Mr. Barano's comments that there's no experience with it. So, okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stamey?
I have a question. Since it's been brought up, do we have anything allocated for the 4th of July party or celebration?
Yes,
So we do have money for that already set aside?
yes, I believe it's 30,000 is already in another line item for the tax.
Could we follow up on that?
Yeah, sure.
Could we allocate some of the money and just make the 4th of July the biggest opening celebration that we could do instead of using this whole, just add another $20,000 to it and make it a little bit bigger for the 4th of July and say that's our grand opening day for the whole thing?
I believe you could, you just kind of make sure we promote it. Get tourists here.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Wallace?
I understand that we alleviated the fireworks from the 4th of July celebration.
You guys did, yes.
Yes, I remember that. And it had mainly to do with, we were doing so many. So I guess if we wanted to, could we reallocate the fireworks into the 4th to kind of supplement?
Too late.
Oh, it is. It has to be done next week.
That's
Okay.
one of those things you
Okay.
have to do, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, you
No,
have to
thank
do
you.
that way ahead of time.
Yeah.
Everybody's using 4th of July,
Well,
and we just didn't do
There
it
it
in
is.
time.
Even if we could, yeah, okay. Thank you.
In fact, I have a question on that. So for Ms. Mull specifically, can we do anything for the 4th of July 1 month in advance? Can you change anything at this point?
I can add to what I've already planned, but as far as anything huge, absolutely not. It's too late. Yeah, it's just too late, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mr.
You're
Mayor,
welcome.
Ms. Shawn?
can we, I mean, this wasn't on the main list, so can you tell us what you have planned for 4th of July? Because it's not here.
No, this is just about the pier. What you have is just about the pier, yeah.
Gotcha.
So we're doing 4th of July, to answer your question, we're doing 4th of July in Memorial Park.
Okay.
And it's gonna be a 4th of July celebration, so there's gonna be live music, live entertainment, we'll have some food there, all the fun things that we do. Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Are you standing ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kinkin?
I would like to make a motion to keep the $12,200 allocated for events at the pier other than the grand opening, and that we not have a grand opening and use that $78,000, or whatever it comes out to be,
60.
for future.
83.
83, okay.
83.
83, okay, to use the $83,000 for other uses to be determined.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and I'll just clarify. It is to retain the $12,200 that's been set aside for various pier events throughout the year, but to reallocate the remaining approximately $83,000 to general ATAX usage, to be defined. Is that an agreement? Okay. I'll start the discussion. Mr. Kinkin, you made the motion. If you want to start, it's your floor.
Well, there are a lot of uses that we can use that money for. I would like to see more showers underneath the pier, so that as people come off the beach, they can take a quick shower and not track sand up onto the pier for us to clean up. It'll keep it out of the bathrooms. It'll keep it out of the walkways. Harry mentioned bike racks. I think that's another good use for the money. But right now, I do not want to see this money wasted. There's too many good things. And I don't mean wasted. It's just too late to have a grand opening. We've done it in May, maybe, but not now. It's been open too long. The restaurants may or may not be open in September. So it's just not a good time to spend that kind of money. We have other good uses that we can allocate for the next year. And I'd like to see that 83,000 used elsewhere. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Shawn?
Well, I've been doing my homework and answering the residents, whether emails, texts, they see me in my yard all the time. And the voices have been heard loudly. The people don't want this huge pier party when you have other things this town needs. Especially, it's been said before, the beach accesses. We have handicap parking on some of the beach accesses, but the handicapped individuals can't even walk to the beach. There's no ramps, there's no pads. So, and you talk about tourism, everybody comes here for the beach. That's a number one. Beach and the restaurants. So we need to take the time to ensure that this money is spent on tourist items, plus making it more appetizing for people to come here. All people, whether autism, handicap, whatever. The second thing I want to point out is, I kind of giggle at all the expenses here. They're unnecessary. Not when you have important things to be done to beautify our city, our town, our small town. So I appreciate all the residents that come out and talk to me, because they're not a 1 or 2 word email text. I had a text that was so long, I was wondering how they didn't get cut off. But I appreciated that they voiced their opinion to me. And I want to say a huge thank you to that. Let's see. Tourism. And I'm just making sure I got everything, I did my homework. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
I totally agree with Mr. Kinkin and Ms. Schillen. Put a beach shower in, like $4,000, $2,000 for a meter, it's gonna last 15 years. Put a bike rack in, it costs around $400, it's gonna last 20 years. Put pavers in, costs around $10,000, and must note that Mr. Dare already asked for two beach accesses to be done and was told it was too late to do it, or the money wasn't there. And that would last indefinitely. Put a couple more 12 by 12 walkovers, possibly handicap accessible, be 25,000 plus. Restrooms, what a godsend it was when I was campaigning. You're out there for hours and hours, and we have restrooms, but we could really use some more restrooms. It's a great thing to do, especially if you have young children, you come here vacationing. A visitor center, there's a lot of controversy with the pier, with that room we have up there. Well, maybe have that as a visitor welcome center, or we could sell shirts too, but you could fund it also according to the way I read the ATAX thing. So there's a lot of things we could do with this, a lot of things that would last for a long, long time. And I'm not of the opinion of some others on this, so let's take the money for the big party, grand opening, and we'll switch it over to another party. This town has parties. We have great parties. If you really look at it, some of those parties, and I don't want to say it too loud, but some of those parties, we don't get too many visitors. Visitors as in tourists over 50 miles away. I mean, that's the big shh, don't say anything. I don't know if you're allowed to do that. I honestly don't know if you're allowed to have events and classify them as tourist related when it's only people from 20 miles away is the furthest distance. I don't think that's what ATAX is supposed to be used for. So, I just think we should think more long-term and just a big poof party and we don't have anything after, other than garbage. And, so, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Walls.
Okay, let me speak to this first by introducing, I have a great deal of experience. I've served as an executive vice president of sales and marketing. I've served as a principal for a company that went national and then international, and then, anyway, I will say to you, I get this feeling, this verbiage of people that may be less than understanding of how vital PR is. It is the most important form of advertising that you can get, far more successful than any media campaigns that we can do. All that money we spend with the chamber that might be filter returns, hard to measure what little piece we get out of all that, but a PR event in this done by, I will tell you that I ran the formulas on that $60,000 expenditure. The return on that investment for us over the next 5 to 10 years on an event like this, depending upon how Tabitha can drop the PR and who she can get here, which this would be, because of the type of peer that we have, significant important to even regional news media to pick up, okay? The return on that over the next 5 to 10 years in a very conservative formula would be $3 million in tourist dollars actually realized. And I did this for resort destinations for years, like the Greenbrier, the Homestead, Callaway Gardens, Colonial Williamsburg, Opryland Hotel. I've done this a lot. So there's no better legitimate advertising than PR. Now, having said that, because of the unpredictability and uncertainty of the construction of our pier, we have put a lot of things in this town on hold. a lot of these things in this town on hold because we didn't realize how the end result, we still don't know what the final end result's gonna be on cost. But I will say that I would support Mr. Kinkin's motion because there are things more short-term that we can do because they've been neglected since losing our first pier and the reconstruction phase and all this, that could have as long-lasting, impactful effects to the PR and marketing, depending on how Tabitha could spin it. New crossovers, you can spin anything. And the media picks up on this. So I think, just to make a short story long as I often do, I apologize, but I think it would be best allocated for more short-term investments in our tourism, such as the things we've heard about, to support our local businesses that the district's been a little neglected over the pier construction. Everything has. So let's look for ways that we can make it more short-term, impactful, but providing long-term benefits to the tourism industry in our town. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Stamey. I support this resolution for what we're going to do with the money. But I also attended a meeting with our Congressman, Russell Fry, and our state senator from here. These guys who provided $1.5 million from our state to us was looking kindly forward to the opening of our pier, having a grand opening at some point in time. And they made it known at that time when I talked to these guys that they were kindly expecting it because they had done a little for our town. And so with that, I think a grand opening, it didn't have to be whenever. It could have been done at the 4th of July, which I suggested to start with, just to bind it all together and have it at that time. I still would like to see something sometime or another to where we could recognize these people who did help out on funding for this pier, not only the federal government, but our state government helping pay for some of this. So I would sometimes like to see something to say, this is it, this is grand, this is open, and it might be after our business is open. It might be next 4th of July. But I would like to see us get back to the old time of the 4th of July celebration, where we had bands down in the parking lot. We had bands on Main Drive there. We blocked it off and enjoyed that time of the 4th of July. And I hope that this town can get back to that instead of us sitting up here arguing about whether we need a party, whether we need to do this, or whether we need to do that. Some of this money, and I agree, $95,000 plus the opening of the thing at the 4th of July was way too much money. But I would like to see the town get back to some of our old time stuff of what we used to do. Seems like to me, we're trying to outgrow what our town stood for, not only 10 years ago, but long before I came to town. And so I'd like to maybe get back at some point of the big celebration at the 4th of July and be done with everything at that time. But I do support this amendment to this.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kinkin.
What Chris said about thanking the people that got us almost $11.5 million for this pier. If we can figure out a way to do it, I think we should. I know Lindsey Graham worked really hard to get the 9.7 million, and other people got the 1.5 from the state. We need to thank them. But this grand opening would have been a perfect time to do it, but it's just too expensive, and I just don't think that's the best way for us to spend ATAX money. If we need something that John Adair's people don't have time to do, then we put it out for bid and have outsiders do it. I don't want to overwork his people because he has a schedule that he has to do summer, winter, et cetera. And if you ever talk to him, he's very organized. And if this is something beyond what he can do, then let's put it out for bids. But I would like us to explore some way to thank the congressmen, individuals, senators, that were able to get this money for us, because without it, we wouldn't have this. We would not have a concrete pier. Let's put it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to make a statement myself. I know many people in the town and on the council are very much against the grand opening celebration. I've heard the word party used about as many times as I can count, and always as a pejorative. And I'm disappointed in that. I understand the differing viewpoints, but to stick to party, often with additional derogatory terms such as stupid or ridiculous, which I've seen in emails, makes me question whether those people really understand the situation and have a valid argument. I'm pleased that the last week or so emails have been much more well-reasoned, well thought out, and what I'm hearing here is the same. So that's good. But that language, party, demeans the very hard work of our events people and the volunteers that support that work. Also, Public Works, Police, and Fire Department contribute to make the events happen. And I think of even my small part in the events, and I'm exhausted at the end of the barbecue festival, the birthday party where we open the pier, Memorial Day, and they never feel like parties to me. So I just think we can do better than just, calling it a party. The pier grand opening is an investment in the future of the town. It creates opportunities to bring in revenue, obtain good press, generate goodwill, create repeat business, and showcase the family beach to shine the spotlight on our town in a very positive way. The investment is intended to grow A-tax and H-tax revenues, not only for that day, but on an ongoing basis, which was Mr. Wall's point. Successful businesses then attract more businesses, further increasing business license fees. We have to realize we cannot just sit back and assume tourists will always spend their money here. We're competing with the rest of the Grand Strand, even for the tourist dollars that are already spent in this area. The one factor we can't deal with is timing. We were unable to get a grand opening done in the May timeframe. It makes no sense to do one during the busy season. You want to bring in people in the shoulder seasons. That's why September was chosen. So at this point, the debate should center around whether this is a good investment and at what cost, or if there's other options. And again, we've had that discussion today, so I do appreciate it. But we have to remember the money's already been deferred and it must be spent within the upcoming budget year. And really, that would be more like by March or April, because by May, people are coming and we can't be doing that kind of work once we're starting to get a lot of visitors. So I want to be clear on my stance. I have absolutely no personal agenda. By nature, I'm actually a spend nothing type of guy. But being on this side of the table, I don't vote for what I want. I vote for what I think is best for the entire town, even if it doesn't match my personal viewpoint. Considering the Oregon County Fire Department, I would have been okay with turning our fire services over on my own. But looking at the situation for the town, I realize that the town does better with its own department. And that's why I voted to increase the budget in this case. So I've maintained from the beginning that more of the town's A-tax and H-tax funds should be used to generate additional A-tax and H-tax funding opportunities, and I still maintain that. However, in the end, the large cost juxtaposed against the reduced impact due to the lateness of the event, coupled with the lack of support within the town, and we definitely need town support to promote the town, means the best thing would be to vote against it. Any other comments? All right, then Ms. Medina?
You want to restate the motion?
Oh, yes, I should restate the motion. Thank you for catching that. The motion on the table is to reserve the $12,200 for pier events and return the $83,000 remaining dollars to the available A-tax pool.
Ms. Fallon,
So
We're saving $12,000, but putting the 83, no grand opening,
Okay,
no,
I just
nothing,
wanna
just
make
goes back.
sure.
It could be used for other events on the pier, but that's to be determined by us later.
A big fat yes.
Mr. Kinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Krecklo,
Yes.
Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Mr. Walls,
Yeah.
Mayor Kraus.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Okay, with that, we will now move on to item A, the millage discussion. And at our last meeting, we had a little bit of confusion with how the budget was being amended, and Mr. Stamey indicated that he would like to still bring a motion to look at 6 mills tax increase.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stamey.
I'd like to make a motion that we increase tax millage rate from 4 to 6 mills, with 2 mills dedicated to public service, public safety.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so the motion on the table is increase the 24-25 fiscal year budget, tax increase from 4 mills to 6 mills, and dedicate that to specifically to public safety. And
Mr. Mayor,
go ahead and, yeah, we have the motion in a second, so, yeah, go ahead and start the discussion, Mr. Stamey.
Mr. Mayor, my discussion on this is we don't bring enough millage rate, tax rate into this town to pay our workers now. So with this increase, this is going to help get that up to where we're taxpayers are paying for our people who work here, not just for, as toys, some people want to say, but it's really for our fire department radios, for the police department radios, for everything that this town needs. We can go to A-tax and H-tax and get some of that money. But this millage increase is well past needed in this town. It needed to be probably 2 years ago and been along the way as we went. But I think this will help. It ain't a solved problem, but it'll get us closer to being able to pay our employees with our taxes of the town.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shawn.
my concern about rate going from 4 to 6 mil. It's been known that, there was money in the budget to hire 3 firemen. That never happened. Where'd the money go? Another thing I'd like to bring up is you're raising the mills. We agreed on 4, now you want 6. Next year, do you want 8? So why don't we figure out what we need to spend with the 4 mil first? Because my biggest concern too is Horry County is getting ready to do a real estate assessment this year. So that's another pocket of taxes going up. So I really feel we should take the time, sit back, let the 4 mil see what that pays for. Do this logically. Don't just throw extra money in a pot and come here next year and we don't know where the money went. Because the money of the 3 firemen disappeared. Okay? So that's a fact. And I'll stand with anybody. If they can prove to me where that money went, then why don't we have those 3 firemen over there right now? But remember, our property taxes are going up. Horry County is doing the assessment. I have one neighbor that contacted me and says, look, I added another room so my grandchildren could come see me. But now I'm worried if I can stay in this house between flood insurance, the other hail and wind, property taxes going up, now the mill are going up. So when does it end? So I think we need to concentrate and we need to take a step back to ensure we're requesting money for the right reasons. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Walls.
Okay, I have had extensive meetings with our fire department and our police department. And they've been kind enough to discuss specifically to the police department a restructuring so that they can provide the maximum services available with a smaller team. It would, yes, benefit them greatly if we could unfreeze the 2 police officers that they absolutely need. But either way, the first responders in our town, well, we've seen where our neglect has gotten us over the past 7 years. Even when the last time we did, in 2017, we were allowed, I've heard different stories of 3 meals, 4 meals, whatever, and we got 1.5. Well, basically $90,000 at that time was the equivalent of those 1.5. And you want to know what significant impact that has on our budget, then go to the end of the pier and spit in the ocean and see how that changed. Honestly, 90,000 was not enough then, and then we've totally neglected raises over the past 7 years. So we need to, I am voting from a place of education. I'm not just voting for this increase just to be spending money. At a $400,000 appraisal in this town on your property, it equals $96 a year. I hope that we don't have people in the town that are so stressed that $100 would be the difference between them keeping their homes or not. But anyway, I support this motion because we need to take care of our police, our fire. We've got to do it with strength, not just to get by. We need to start making significant impacts in those 2 areas. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kinkin.
The 3 firemen that we were supposed to hire in this budget were not funded. It was being pulled from reserves, which could be hospitality, tax, but it was not from tax money. We originally had 4 meals for this past year that at the last minute got moved to reserves. My theory is that if you have a staff that you want to keep, you have to pay for them. This town has said, we want the fire department to remain in Surfside. And to do that, we have to pay for them. Even with 6 meals, we're going to end up with some money from hospitality, which we're legally allowed to do, especially more so with the fire department because of, not the fire department, with the police department, because they have to staff for 35, 40,000 people, but that we have in the summertime. A lot of those houses sit empty in the winter, but they're not empty in the summer. So that's okay, but I still say that if long-term, our taxes should cover the cost of our staff, whether it be in town hall, public works, police, or fire. We should be paying for them so that if we have, I'll use my example of having a hurricane in July, which would ruin our budget, we would still be able to maintain our staff because we've paid for that. We're not betting on what's going to come in the door. We've already said this is what we have to do. And that's why I'm in favor of this. It just, to me, I'm going to use the other analogy I've used. Borrowing money to pay your mortgage. If you take a mortgage out and you have to take money out of savings to pay for it, how long can you do that? And that's what we're talking about. We've got a staff that we said we wanted, and we need to support that. And that's why I'm in favor of going from 4 to 6. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
just want to flash back to last year, right around this time. We were told we have to raise your mills to help pay for the firefighters. Well, come to find out that that's not what it was for. It was for giving big increases in some of the staff's salaries. And when they got caught, one retired, one resigned, and everyone had his pay taken back, his increase taken back. And we were told that, yeah, we can hire 3 firefighters. Well, they didn't tell us that that would have been only for a year. And like Ms. Shawn said, where's the money? I know Mr. Kinkin just said it's in the special fund or a special place, but we should have enough money for 3 firefighters for a year tucked away somewhere. We don't. So that's my problem here. Maybe we do need 6 mils. But I am very leery of just handing over the page, the checks. I'm really, really leery of that. During the budget, we talked about this, about going from 4 to 6. Well, first of all, going to 4 and then going to 6. And some of us on this dais here, we insisted upon making cuts. This is what should have been done prior to things coming to the council on the budget meeting. And we were able to find about $105,000 in cuts. Well, there was someone on this council who wanted to raise the mills at that time to pay for those, to put the cuts back in, the fat, the stuff that we didn't need. And now we're here, after we said, no, we're not gonna do that, now they're here for a second round saying, we need to put it up to 6. We're gonna earmark it for public safety. Well, as everybody knows, I love cops. I love firemen. I've been, since I got on this dais, I've been talking about getting more firefighters. I've also been talking about for the last 10 years, giving them a living wage. We don't pay them enough. So now look at this. We get a new interim chief. And he has, with his so on his staff, he has thought up a proposal that he can give raises to his police officers, corporals, and sergeants. And it won't cost us 1 more cent than what he's budgeted already. Think about that. He's able to give raises to his people, reallocate money, and it's not gonna cost us any more than what he asked for, or what the person before him asked for. This is the kind of thinking, this is the kind of stuff we need. We need the fire department, we need the police department. They have to start coming to us and telling us how they can save us money, not how we can spend more money. Like I said before, if your family can't pay for their food bills, we shouldn't be going to Disney World. So if we can't live within our means, and that's it, maybe we have to raise it, but I'm not gonna vote for raising it until you show me exactly why and where you're gonna put this money. I think it's a little bit uncontrolled spending in town hall. And I think that's to be reined in, and tell us what you really, really need. Not just, oh, give me 6, and then, we'll see what I can do with it. Not a good way to run a business.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Stamey, I was on this panel last year when we discussed this same problem with the fire department. And at that time, we were gonna take money out of H-Tax or A-Tax to pay the firemen. It didn't happen. We knew we needed these people at that time. We didn't have the money to do it, so we reached into this fund set aside for things that we need. That's where the firemen, that they keep talking about, was coming from. That's where that money was allocated from. It didn't happen. The money was there, and it wouldn't have lasted but a year. So every year, when you take money out of that fund goes down. It replenishes itself, but if you keep reaching into it and pulling money out, it's sort of like your savings. You reach in it long enough and it'll be gone. And to pay salaries go up. If we want to keep anybody in this town, we have to pay more every year. That's a fact. That is a fact. And then we heard the argument that Horry County is reassessing our tax, which is true. We don't get that money. Surfside don't get it. We don't get it to pay our employees. Horry County gets it. So where do we get the money to pay our employees? This is where we reach out and get our money from to help pay these people. Wasteful? They might be some wasteful spending in it. But we got to talking about uniforms, hats, the stuff that was in there. So that's some of the wasteful spending. We took care of it. The $105,000 that they saved ain't gonna pay for it. And it ain't, we still reached into a fund trying to get money out to pay these people. The people who live in this town don't pay enough taxes to pay for what they want. They want this fire department to stay here. They want our police department to stay here. They want them to be staffed with good people. And you gotta have money to do it. It's just like anybody else in this town. I'm gonna go back to Bill, what they said. I hope there ain't nobody in this town that $100 is gonna make them lose their house. I hope. If there are, if they move somewhere else, they still gonna have to pay taxes. We are the lowest millage rate in the surrounding towns here in Surfside. We pay our people less than anybody else does around here. We in that situation. And until we get some more money somewhere or another, cutting out all these parties and everything else is gonna raise enough money, I'm for that. Listen, I can live without partying in Surfside all year long if it'll help pay for it. But we can't use that money to pay our employees. That just ain't, it don't work. And I've sat up here at this table, I've worried about this and worried about it. And I told everybody whenever I wasn't gonna raise our taxes until we had to. We have to. This town needs to. And I ain't gonna sit here and tell you that this 6 meals is gonna be enough. It might come next year that this thing might have to go up 2 or 3 or 4 more meals to help pay for it. I hope it don't. But after we get this money and get it allocated to where it needs to go and how it needs to be spent, we don't know. But it could happen. If these prices of everything keeps going up, we're gonna have to pay more for these people. If you don't, we're gonna lose them. And you're gonna see some people in the fire department and then the police department is gonna go ahead and leave anyway because we can't pay what this little town should be paying. We can't pay what Horry County pays. We can't pay what North Myrtle Beach pays. We can't pay what Horry County pays, but we can be competitive. And it means if it raises your millage rate up by $20 more than what you're going to pay, so be it. I'm sorry. I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be my taxes. I live here in town. I pay taxes. I don't want to pay it. I live on a fixed income. I have a certain amount of money that I can spend, and I live on that. So, and with saying that, I hope everybody out here understands that we just can't reach into these funds that A-tax supplies or H-tax supplies and pay people. We can buy a lot of stuff with it, but it just ain't for salaries. We have to provide salaries and money for that. And that's why I'm going to vote, or why I brought this up to raise it to 6 million. It really probably should have went to 8, to be honest with you. But I'm fine with 6 for this year to see where we go and how this town stands next year. It might mean that next year when I have to run for election, that you all vote me out. That'll be fine. I'll be satisfied with what I've done while I'm here. And that's to protect y'all in my seat. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shaw.
my whole point about this is, our acting chief of police, as Mr. Coleman said, is working on a plan. We're seeing the fire department training with volunteers. I saw them up at the big parking lot at Old Time Pottery, and I stopped by and I took pictures, and I thought that was great. The whole point here is, let's put our brakes on. Let's see how many volunteers we get back in. Let's see if the formula with the acting chief of police is going to be able to give the raises without the taxes going up. And yes, there are people in this town, and I know for a fact that they grow vegetables in their backyard to feed themselves. And I know people don't want to see that reality. The food bank that we have in Surfside is up to 300 families. I know they come from other areas, but there's a percentage of them that live in our town going to the food bank. So yes, $100, $50, it does make a difference in people's budget. It does. And I think we should start listening to the residents. And I hadn't heard one resident that contacted me that said they wanted the 6 mills. They want us to figure out, just don't give money in a pot constantly. Let's figure out what we're doing with that money before we ask the residents to give up another meal. Maybe not that vacation going 20 miles down the road to a different beach. Let's be smart about this and let our employees help us to figure this out. Putting money in a piggy bank is not going to work. Just as Mr. Stamey said, next year we might have to raise it another 4, 6. We got to figure out what we're doing. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Wallace.
Just like to say that the weight mentality that we've experienced in this town for the past 7 years has gotten us exactly where we are today. We were seriously in a position to where we not just wanted to, but we're forced almost to have to turn our fire department over to the county because it's no longer in our best interest because of the staffing that we have. Remember this, guys. The staffing we have on those trucks, we could not breach a fire until the county got there to support us when we showed up with current paid staff. You can't count on volunteers. They might be busy somewhere else. So this whole thing started because, and I will tell you, I know Ms. Shawn made some comments, but I talked to an awful lot of people, as did Mr. Stamey, that said, go 10, we want the fire department, go 10 if you have to. Well, I'm not talking about wasting money. I'm talking about investing it well and reminding this council that it's not only our job to establish a budget, it's also our job to ensure its appropriate deployment of those funds where we have applied them. So it will be our job to make sure that these monies go toward what we're voting to have them go toward: first responders, public safety. So anyway, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kreckloff.
First, I'd like to say that I think there's a misunderstanding on property taxes. Yes, there is a reassessment, and it's basically a net zero, which means that our amount that we get from the county for our taxes is going to stay the same as last year. So adding 4 mills to it, if we do have a fairly substantial increase in property values, it will go up quite a bit more, maybe not quite a bit more, but it will go up more than what we have figured the 4 mills to go up. I think that this town has misspent money for many years and has got us into the problem we're in. We never spent it on building maintenance. We never really had we still don't have a IT department, an IT department. We need one. We kind of do. I think we pay as much as it would cost us to actually have a full-time person, which would get to know our network and our people and be able to do a more efficient job of it. But that's neither here nor there. But it is a way to maybe save money in the long run. And I think that rather than raise taxes, the government always seems to find a way to spend the money if it's there. If it's not there, they seem to be able to deal with it usually. And in this case, I think that we need to step back and raise it to 4 mills and see what we end up with. It'll be easier to budget next year because we will have the reassessment done. We'll know what our property taxes are going to bring in, and maybe we'll have a little better handle on where some of the expenses are going. So that's what I have to say.
All right, I'm going to make a comment. And I'm looking at a lot that the others have said. We do have some increased building maintenance costs coming soon. We know that's gonna happen with Huckabee and the Civic Center and so forth. But I think we need to better understand them before we can really even plan on that. Costs are gonna continue to increase. Pay is going to have to increase for public safety. And the competition is going to continue to increase, I expect, from Conway, Myrtle Beach, Horry County, et cetera. But we do have plans to start a step pay plan. We have addressed the fire department already through the 4 mills. The interim police chief does have a plan to increase pay within the existing budget. And we took the action this year to change the COLA, the cost of living allowance, to a flat raise to better improve the position of the lower scale wage earners. And we did make a few small cuts. My gut feel is we will need to increase the millage rate again, but I think we've done enough that at least for this year, we should see where we are. And I do believe there is a likelihood that we'll spend money if we bring it in. I want to see what we do this year and then get more aggressive at looking at cuts, challenging each department as early as this fall, not waiting till early next year to get into the budget, but to say, what can we do to take out an extra 5,000 here, 10,000 there, cut your budget by 1% or so, realizing again that inflation's going to probably take all that back. But I mean, we need to put the onus on our department heads to be as conscientious and careful as possible. So that's my perspective and the end of my comments.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kinkin.
Our budget right now has 4 mills. That covers part of the cost of the fire department, plus we have to take $350,000 to $400,000 from reserves, H-tax. I'm not sure exactly where the money comes from, but we're having to pull $350,000 to $400,000 to do the payroll. I'm okay with that. I just don't think it's a long-term way to go. If we go to 6 mills, we're still going to have to take $200,000 from reserves to pay the salaries. So we do benefit every year because the property values do go up and our taxes go up because of the property value. We do benefit from that. It's been $100,000 to $150,000 a gain year over year for the last 5 years. I don't know what it was this year, but I'm sure it's somewhere in the same range. Unfortunately, this year, inflation ate it up. Other years, we've been able to add a person without having to change taxes. This year, we're going to have to add people and we're going to have to increase taxes. The question is, do we pay 6 or do we pay 4? We brought the 6 up because we think it's a long-term sound investment in this town. If we do the 4, then we have to look at it again next year. If we do the 6, we may or may not have to look at it next year. So it's a question of how do we pay for our staff? And let's face it, we all want our fire department to be here. We want a good police department. We want to feel safe in our town. We want our service that's supplied by the town hall and public works. We want all these things and we don't always pay for all of it. So I do think for staff purposes, we need to cover with taxes what our staff costs us. Thank you. I'm done.
Mr. Collins.
So I agree with Mr. Kinkin said.
Mr. Mayor.
To a point.
This is his second.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought he'd already talked once. I'm sorry.
Once. This is his second.
To a point.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Right now, I believe with the 4 mills, we're going to be able to pay for the fire department and all the things so far budgeted. When we voted on about either going to Horry County Fire Department or trying to keep our own fire department, which I hope we can. But we also said, we're gonna look into it after a year. So I don't wanna go further than that year on allocating money for something that we might not have. That extra mills was gonna be if we had a fire department. We might not have our own fire department, and I hope that's not the way it's gonna be. But if it doesn't work out, and it might not work out, because we didn't manage a fire department the right way for the last 10 years or so. I mean, I think very few of you knew it until I brought it up. We only had 2 firefighters going to a fire. It's useless. You can't fight a fire with two firefighters. So I brought that point up. And I was the advocate to get more firefighters. So we have the 4 mills to pay for those firefighters and using some of our hospitality or a tax money. I'm not sure which one we're using. So if we don't have a fire department next year, we don't need to increase the mills. We're gonna have enough money. We might have more than enough money. I just hate giving money to the government because they always find a way to spend it. It's like giving your college kid a credit card and telling them, just use it if you really need it. And then you get the bill at the end of the month, and it's $1,000, and you go, I told you just use it for when you need it. Oh yeah, I need an Uber, I need a McDonald's, I need a new pair of shoes. That's why I have a problem with government. They see it, they gotta spend it. So I don't think we should add any more spending money. Thank you.
All right, we'll close the debate on this. So, Ms. Medina? Oh, well, let me restate the motion. Yeah, the motion on the table is to change our millage increase from 4 mills to 6 mills and to allocate that additional funding for public safety.
Ms. Fallon,
No.
Mr. Kinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
No.
Mr. Cregwell,
No.
Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Mr. Walls,
Yes.
Mayor Kraus.
I'm gonna say no. Motion fails 4-3. Okay, we are now moving on to item B, or B, the executive police panel selection. And Mr. Vincent, do you want to start us off?
Yes, sir. So the mayor and council members have received requests from retired police chiefs over the last couple months. Also, the council members have also sent me some information with individuals who wish to volunteer. You've got a list in front of you of approximately 9 volunteers, with candidate number 3 actually withdrawing due to just a busy time of the year. I know there's been a question of should we or should we not use residents of Surfside Beach. And I also know that my understanding is I need to take a deeper dive into some of the candidates. They're not employees of the town, they're volunteers, so there cannot be an official background check, but there can be a deeper dive into a candidate's background. So, Mr. Mayor, if that's the case, if the council wants to vote on whether to utilize a resident or not, that will cut down the list significantly, so I could do the deeper dive into the candidates and their background.
All right. Would anybody like to make a motion to that, Mayor? Mr. Walls?
I will make a motion as previously stated in our original investigation motion. The panel should not utilize any residents of Surfside Beach.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to not consider residents of Surfside Beach on this panel. Is there any discussion? Mr. Walsh, you made the motion. Would you like to start?
I I would just like to state that I think it would be impossible for any resident of the town to be totally unbiased in any way, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for an unbiased investigation into why our police department, I guess beyond what our former chief of police was able to provide us from a local, regional, state, and national level, we wanted to delve deeper. So I think we should use people from outside the area that can give us an honest and unbiased perspective and opinion on our police department's attrition.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
I don't understand why if you're a police, executive police official, retired, who came down and moved here, how you could possibly be biased if you live in the neighborhood. I really don't understand that. Somebody comes down and retires, has no interaction, either positive or negative, with the police department, has no personal relationships with anyone in the police department. I don't understand why you get disqualified because you're a resident of this town. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I think it's more important that to somebody who's actually in command staff, who actually did investigations, was a manager of police officers, more so than where you happen to retire in. I honestly don't understand that if you're a resident, we can't trust you to make a good decision. And you're gonna be biased. I don't understand why. If you don't even know anybody in the police department, why you would be that way? I get it, you got a ticket from them or something like that, you know, and you want to revenge, but if you just came down here after 40 years of being a police executive chief, and you chose to live in this great paradise, you're looking to really hammer the local police department. It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Shaw?
I agree with Mr. Coleman. What better insight to get? I mean, I've been here almost 8 years, and I love when the residents tell me they've been here 20, 30, 40 years, and they give me the history of this town. Well, I would expect the same thing for a Surfside resident to volunteer. You know how good it makes me feel to have a Surfside resident believe in their town enough to take away from their family time to volunteer. And I think this is a wonderful idea. Who has better insight than somebody living in town? And I just think this is wrong to do this. If you have volunteers, take them. And especially if they're from Surfside. It's my opinion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stanton?
I'm gonna comment on this in-town thing. It don't, you know, if you live in town, you probably got an opinion about how the police department runs here. It don't matter if you've been given a ticket or not given a ticket, work for the department or not work for the department. You usually have an opinion about it if you live in town. I think we ought to reach out to people that don't live in town, bring them in, and let them do the investigation. And then they talk about, if you live in town, you ought to take advice. We had 14 police officers to show up at this building. We listened to 3 or 4 at that time, and we still voted the opposite way of what these people told us. So we're not listening to residents anyway. You know, these 7 people make their own opinion of how they feel about it. And that's the way I'm going to vote on these people. I'm going to vote on the way I feel about these people. I don't think people in town, I don't think that, I'm going to use Mr. Coleman as an example. He's a former police officer. I don't think he should be on a panel to judge our police department because he has an opinion about it. And I think that's the way most people would be in this town. If you're a policeman that live here, you've got an opinion about it. And that's back to Mr. Walls. We want somebody that's not biased. We want, even if it might be that they love our police department. That still gets into the conflict of, are you making the right decisions? If we got outside people that has no investment in the town, don't matter to them one way or another, you're probably gonna get a better opinion from them.
Any other comment?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kreckler?
I think more important than if they live here or not, it's more important how unbiased they can be, which is very hard to judge. But reading through some of the people's credentials, if you've been a police chief for 40 years, you should have a better understanding of what does cause turnover and maybe be able to look at it a little more objectively. If they're a resident, yeah, they may be prejudiced in some way, shape, or form, but how do you measure that? And I think more importantly is that they wouldn't have had any direct contact, even if they're from not in the area. You know, it could be a next door neighbor of a policeman that had an axe to grind and always talked to this person. It's very hard to find people that are unbiased, and that's why you need 3 or 4 people on the panel. So that maybe gets nullified. That's just my opinion.
All right, I'm gonna make a couple comments. I think there's a little difference between opinion and bias. I think of my background and, you know, as an engineer, I walked into a lot of situations with opinions, like trying to keep an open mind, and the data often showed things were different than what I first thought. So I think you can have an opinion and still be open-minded. I would hope that people that have a full career in law enforcement, especially in the, you know, in the command level, would be better suited for that. I do believe that, especially if you're a Surfside resident, we should probably put a little extra scrutiny to make sure there is no bias. Do a, you know, at least a phone interview, so forth. If we do eliminate Surfside Beach residents, we have 4 to choose from. So that does kind of limit us. They do look like good candidates from what I see, but I mean, it is, again, only 4. And then the other thing I'll say is, even if you don't live in Surfside Beach, if you're in Myrtle's Inlet, Myrtle Beach, anywhere in this area, you have access to the same social media. You've seen all the same kind of comments and so forth. So I don't think that the opinions and bias necessarily come just from living in town, but the social media aspect as well. So I think we've got to look at these people and, you know, dig into them a little bit better, but not necessarily toss them up just because they live in the same town. I would suggest that we eliminate a couple that did not get to leadership positions. Any other comments? All right, then the motion on the table is to eliminate candidates from this pool if they are Surfside Beach residents. That's the whole motion, okay. All right.
Ms. Fallon,
No.
Mr. Kinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
No.
Mr. Kreckler,
No.
Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Mr. Walls,
Yes.
Mayor Kraus.
I'm gonna say no, so the motion fails 4-3. Do you want to say anything more about the panel, Administrator Vincent?
No, sir, we'll do a deeper dive into the list of candidates and bring that back.
Does anybody want to make any other motions related to this topic?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kinkin?
I don't want to make a motion, but I just want to make sure that it's an equal system so that people that left and people that stayed are all interviewed. You know, if you have 4 on one side, you should have 4 on the other, so it's balanced. That's all. I don't know that I've heard, and you may have sent, I'm not sure exactly what they're supposed to do, but I do want to make sure that it's balanced.
Mr. Mayor.
You want to speak on that?
Yes, the town
Thank
attorney,
you.
the town attorney did send you what he thought the scope should look like, such as, because it's been less than 24 hours, I want you guys to review it, and we'll get back the next time we meet to better understand the scope. But it does include former employees and also current employees, if they want to, not required as a volunteer.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shaw?
I did review, from the attorney. The only thing that I'm concerned about, he only said 12 to 24 months. I think that should be extended to at least 3. But that's my opinion. When you do analysis, you have to have a little bit more data, especially not 12 months. You won't have enough data to get a clearer picture. So as we go forward with this, I would really hope that we reconsider to widen the ban to 3 or 4 years.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
I agree with Ms. Shawn. I want to see the big picture. You reduce it to 12, 24, you're not getting the full picture. There's no harm in just a little extra more work, do it the last 5 or 6 years. This way you see how, if there was a problem and how it started and how it progressed and how it possibly blossomed to losing 16 to 17 people out of 24 in a little over a year's time. Took a lot, I think, to do that. And we need to know exactly what happened.
And Mr. Mayor, that was his suggestion, but you can obviously change it,
Right.
and we'll bring it back to the council.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to formulate this a little bit more before we bring it in again.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stanley?
Vincent, on these people that's on this panel now, how did you go about getting these people? Did you reach out to any other agencies of, how did you get these people? How was it gone by to get them?
All of these have been contacted either through a council member or a mayor or me directly, not from any agency.
So a council member has reached out to some of these people to get them to be on this committee?
I don't know that part. All I know is it came from a council member that they wanted to volunteer, or it came to the mayor that they wanted to volunteer. I don't know that a council member or mayor has contacted anybody. They just got emails from these individuals, and they forwarded it to me.
Well, and I'll speak to that.
Very interesting.
For me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 either contacted me or copied me on a contact to Mr. Vincent, and I forwarded the information to him.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
and I suggested 2 people when I was out campaigning, spoke to the gentleman who was a chief in New Jersey, 19 years, 40 years on the job, and on social, met him, was out campaigning, then went to him, spoke to him for a few minutes, would he be interested in possibly doing this for us? And then after he applied, I spoke to him. Have no personal relationship, never had dinner with him, never sat down with him, never went to anything with him. I don't know him other than campaigning and meeting him and being a police professional. Another one, I don't even know the woman. I saw her on social media and found out that she was, worked for Pennsylvania State Police and was a high ranking. It says lieutenant, but I Googled her name, never met her personally, Googled her name, and she was a major and a very well-respected police official. And no, I've never, ever spoke to the woman, never had any conversation whatsoever. So if some on this panel are implying that I'm trying to stack the deck, you gotta start playing a little bit better than that.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Singh?
I hope everybody's listening, paying attention to what was just said here. Really closely. Real close. But if you don't think that that's right? If you don't think it's right, you'll speak up. If you think it's right, that's fine too. But when you have council people reaching out to people in this town to be doing an investigation or talking to them about doing an investigation, don't sit and tell me that it ain't biased. Believe me, y'all,
Mr. Mayor.
that's,
Mr. Mayor,
that's,
we just did chapter 2.
That's true.
that's to me is kind
No.
of suspicious.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shaw.
I truly think that there should be, as council people here, people ask me how I'm doing. I'm doing well with the people. I'm not doing so well with being accused of certain things. So I hope there's a little bit more respect down the line. So let's be civil.
All right, so I think where we are right now is that we're not tossing out anybody for residence. Mr. Vincent is going to reach out to these people and do maybe a little more thorough search without a true background check. And we'll gauge interest from those people and, we'll look at qualifications a little bit deeper along the way. We will also consider the attorney's input for the scope of the panel. And we'll have to bring this back, whether it's in a regular council meeting or another special meeting, I'm not sure. It's a pretty deep issue to spend a lot of time in council. So I'll just keep that in mind. Is there any other comment? All right, at that point, we have concluded the whole business. There is no public comment at the end of this meeting, so I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Walls?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned.